You talk about going out with a bang. You talk about what a way to finish the year. That was the 2022 World Cup. What's going on, everybody? Stoppage Time Football Club. Stoppage Time Football Club Facebook group. If you're watching this, you should be subscribed. Your notifications are on. Sky Blue Joe's in the building. Hopefully Zach can join us. But we have a I've been looking forward to this because I know how much this means to him. And we have our man Diego live with us. We're going to talk about look forward to the club season that's going to restart here shortly. But let's start off with the World Cup 2022. And I'm just going to kind of give the floor to Diego here for a couple. Just Diego, as a longtime Argentinian supporter, talk to me about what last Sunday was for you. Last Sunday and the beginning of this week, what's it been for you?
First of all, cheers.
Let's go. Let's go.
Salud to everyone. Salud to los campeones del mundo, Argentina. So my parents are from Argentina. I was born and raised here in the United States, but they passed down the passion of the sport and the passion for the national team. And I'm sure everyone saw images through social media or online somewhere of the amount of people that went out onto the streets of Buenos Aires, Rosario, Martinez, anywhere across the country to celebrate the world champs. And over 5 million people in Buenos Aires. That is insane. Let's just say it was pandemonium.
Really, they couldn't get the bus through the crowd.
That is correct. They had to abort the parade because of the amount of people the security and police escorts couldn't get through. There was, when they would go under the bridges or overpasses, people were jumping onto their bus.
Thank God.
So the president of AFA, or the Argentinian Football Association, decided to abort the parade along with other officials there. So they were all then escorted out and flown in helicopters to their respective towns, homes, areas where they reside. So pandemonium, I think, is the word that I would describe the return of the world champs back to Argentina. But Sunday was a roller coaster of emotions. And thankfully, at the end, Argentina came out on top.
As a neutral, I know Joe picked Argentina. Joe he leans toward Argentina and Messi. I picked France, full disclosure, but as a neutral. And to me, you can't tell me this wasn't the greatest match ever played. Go ahead.
No, I would agree. In my lifetime, from 94 was about the earliest I can remember. Too young in 1990, but since 94, I think this was one of the most dramatic. If everyone remembers, or those who don't know, the 94 final in the United States also went into a shootout with Brazil and Italy. And we all know the image of Roberto Baggio missing his final PK over the crossbar in Pasadena for the final there. But that game didn't have the ups and downs like this one had. This one had a first half where Argentina, I think, controlled a majority of the possession, controlled, I would say, the momentum of the game, the timing of the game, and just those 2 goals in that first half really affected the French. Now, it took the French time there, but once again, I tip my hat to Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe is a gamer. He's next in line for Messi's throne.
Yeah, I think, and we did it in our Facebook group, and I'm gonna bring Joe, let Joe get in. When Mbappe, when he turned down Real Madrid to go back to PSG and basically was given the keys to the entire club, and you hear the stories about is he a good teammate? Is he somebody? And he is flawed, probably. But as Diego talked about, the performance, that is why you give somebody everything.
Absolutely.
Because that was as close, and Joe step in. Soccer is a team sport. That was as close as you will ever see to one person winning a match by himself.
Yeah, he definitely put France on his shoulders in that second half in extra time. He did everything he possibly could to will them to a win, and it was clear that especially in the first half that Argentina was playing better. They were hungrier. They were playing more with more passion. Were more together. They were first every ball. They were winning all the second balls. It was just a masterclass in the first half by Argentina. And then from reports, Mbappe gave quite a impassioned speech at halftime in the locker room to kind of will his team, get them going a little bit. And he certainly came to play. So tip your cap to that dude. Argentina definitely, I think, was the better team. And I was having a discussion in our house because we were all pulling for Argentina pretty big. We had this discussion that there's only a couple of guys you can say, and so like you said, it's a team sport, that can pull a whole squad of 11 and put them on their back and win a game by himself. And we got to see 2 of them going back and forth in that final. Because Messi, when Ronaldo was in his prime, Mbappe is now there where he can win a match by himself in a sport that is so reliant on a group of 11 guys working well, or women together to accomplish a goal. So it was just an absolute spectacle. We had the Nutcracker tickets, and the show started at 1:00. So I was hoping that we were going to be done in 90, and of course that didn't happen. And then I was like, all right, cool. We're going to be done in 1:20. We'll finish the game in the car. And Messi scores in extra time. I'm like, bet, this is great. We can celebrate in the car, walk in the Nutcracker, we'll be good to go. And then Mbappe is like, nope, we going to go to penalties. And he scores his third one, held a hat trick. First time in 50, 60 years, somebody scores a hat trick in the final. And so we're watching the PKs as we're walking in our Sunday best to the Nutcracker and cheering each penalty and celebrating the stops that Emi Martinez made in the PKs around all these people dressed up in their fancy attire trying to go into the Nutcracker. It was so much fun. It was an absolute blast.
And speaking of Emi Martinez, we talk, obviously, Messi's performance and Mbappe's performance get headline. Emi Martinez makes the most clutch save in the history of the tournament and maybe the most clutch save in the history of the sport. Like, if he doesn't stop that 101, it's like the 120th minute into injury time. That's the game. If he doesn't stop, if he doesn't make a kick save, that's game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that save definitely helped win the World Cup for Argentina. The only other clutch save that I can think of was Iker Casillas on Arjen Robben in the 2010 final, where Robben had a breakaway one-on-one, and I think Casillas got his toenail on the ball to make the save. But that's the World Cup for you. You need all 11 guys to come through that are on the field for you. And along with Dibu's performance, I also want to highlight, because I don't think he gets enough credit, is Angel Di Maria. His first half was out of this world.
Brilliant.
Di Maria did everything. Plus, he, along with the goal, he had the play for the foul for the PK and influenced the entire half, was very active. So Di Maria he's scored in every final that Argentina has played, an important tournament, whether it was the Copa America final, the Finalissima final with Italy, and now the World Cup final. All those 3 games, he started and scored. So I think his performance is to highlight as well.
Ronnie, who had him as their X factor?
I don't know. Somebody did.
Shameless plug for Joe right there. I told people in the preview show that Di Maria was going to be somebody to watch, whether he started or came off the bench. And
yeah, he's been a big match player for majority of his career, club and country.
Both, exactly.
He's somebody who you know he may not play the whole 90, but when he's out there, good things happen. And he had a great first half. Argentina, I believe, really for 75 minutes, were in complete control. But it was a thing, man. I think even people who don't follow the sport like that, and people who just who are casuals at best, were even like, something, that was awesome. And so I hope people, maybe it brings some new eyeballs to the sport, because it really can't get, the thing like if there's a negative to it, I'm like, can this ever get any better?
Right. It's not always it's not always that exciting, for sure, because this is one of the greatest games ever. But what I say to the people who still say that it's not always exciting, it's boring, whatever, is that every sport that you're going to watch is going to have some matches that are not very desirable, suboptimal, like my man's Jimmy Pujols likes to say. So that's just a poor man's excuse. And Cat 5 is in the comments, and he said Di Maria was the best player on the pitch in that first half until he was subbed off, and he didn't really understand the timing of that substitution. I thought that Deschamps had some interesting subs as well, taking off Giroud. I can understand Dembele because he didn't look like he was ready to go, but Giroud was one of the few guys who was actually working his behind off in that first half. So pulling them off with 5 minutes to go and burning one of your windows that early, I guess you get credit because you're not waiting to change things when you see that there's a problem. But I'm not sure if that was the right call. He got some of the subs right in the second half. Some of the guys that they pulled on were very helpful. But the sub patterns again are always a talking point, and fun talking points of the Storms.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Di Maria's subbed out near the 60th minute mark.
Yep.
And I think for him, he was dealing with the injury, and I don't know if it was agreed upon before the game or if it was a decision that they made just based on seeing how the game would unfold, how he felt. But he obviously was not going to go 90. I don't think he was ready for 90 physically, missing the knockout games. So I think the idea was to get him in, start, play first half, and the sub to come on would get about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah,
Obviously, then got longer.
Yeah, those that are new watching and might not know, a lot of times there is a predetermined amount of minutes that certain guys will be able to play. So at certain points in the second half, they'll say, I can give you about 50, 60 minutes. So at the 60-minute mark, a lot of times you'll see guys come off ahead of time, predetermined. So that's what Diego is describing there for those who might not understand, since we got new eyeballs coming to the sport.
Diego, let me ask you this. In obviously following the World Cup final, I think the conversation, pretty much consensus, is that Leo Messi is the greatest to ever play. Like, he's every record, every trophy, he's the greatest now. As an Argentina fan, I wanted to ask you this. Is there a case, which we know this does not happen in the sport that often, but special circumstances for special people, where you could say the number 10 shirt is so iconic in the sport, period, and it's uber iconic with Messi, who followed from in previous Maradona, that maybe nobody else should wear the number 10 for Argentina ever again, because what he's done is just so phenomenal. Is there, I mean, you don't want to say who is the next Messi, because I think that's so much pressure, but
no.
Is there, can anybody else ever wear that number for Argentina ever?
I think after Diego, there was the same questions. There was some that probably thought the same. Now, to answer your question, I don't think that's possible for FIFA official matches.
Fair point.
I don't think FIFA allows to retire a number per se. For friendlies, I believe you may or may not have that number within your roster. But I think for FIFA sanctioned games or official games, I don't think you can retire a number. For those viewers, might have to fact check that, but I think. But there was probably some after Diego that thought, no one's going to be able to fill these shoes. No, Ariel Ortega, Gallardo, Aymar, Riquelme, all played similar positions, got close, but no one filled it until Messi came along. And we may go into an era where think that's it. We're never going to see anyone alike. And who knows, maybe in 20 years, maybe in 30 years, who knows? I don't know where history will take this, but there's two above the rest. It is at Maradona and Messi have dinner at the same table, and that's it. Everyone else is just observers at this point.
Yeah, he's,
and the debate is over.
Oh yeah.
Please No one mentioned Messi's name with Cristiano Ronaldo again. That's it. The debate is over. It's not even close. I don't want to hear it. There's three that sit above everybody else on a pedestal. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, also known as Pelé, Diego Armando Maradona, and Lionel Messi. That's it. Everybody else is on the level right below. Cristiano can be added in with Ronaldo Nazario, can be with Cruyff, with Di Stefano, but no longer is Cristiano Ronaldo in the same sentence as Lionel Messi.
Yeah, I think it what made that way so bad, and Joe jump back in, is it's not only how badly it's ending for Ronaldo. Like, it's a terrible ending. It's ended bad with Man United, benched in the World Cup, and then the guy that they benched you for had a hat trick. Ramos, the guy that they sat you down for, had a hat trick. But then to watch Messi, and I'm sure you got the stat there, is it 5 goals, 4 assists, or 6 goals, 4 assists, and 7?
He had 10 goal contributions, tied with Mbappe for the most in the World Cup.
10 goals, 7 games.
Meanwhile, you can't see the field or start in a quarterfinal. So, I think I saw today. I'm assuming I saw it several times posted that he was at an airport, and allegedly he's in Saudi Arabia meeting the officials at the club that's offering him $200 million a year. So we had talked how Messi might be heading off to. The rumor was he was going to Inter Miami to play for Beckham, but he also is now re-up for one more year at PSG. So, and people had mentioned that Messi's above MLS, and he's too good for that, which is 100% accurate. But seeing Ronaldo now being relegated to a cash grab pretty much out in Saudi Arabia from where he was before, not 2 or 3 years ago, is quite the decline. I know he's got a year or two on Messi, so they're not exactly the same age, but they've been compared their whole careers. So it's definitely done at this point, that discussion back and forth. I agree 100% with Diego.
And to me, he was always the better player. Ronaldo obviously could score in his sleep. Messi was always the better player. I just think the World Cup for me, and Diego, you could tell me how you feel about this as a Messi fan, Argentina fan. To me, the World Cup was like the thing we'll hold over his head.
It's
like, because there was really nothing else to talk about. Like, even take the Messi Ronaldo debate out of it. Messi, to me, he was like, this is the one thing we got on him, because we can't really hold over anything else.
Yeah, at the club level, both Cristiano and Messi have accomplished everything there is to accomplish, and multiple times at the club level. But at least in Argentina, you're evaluated on what you do internationally. You know, there's a lot of excellent players at the club level, even locally in Argentina. But to be in a conversation and for people to, you know, acknowledge you as a player, they want you to perform at the highest level, and that they consider the highest level the World Cup. That's the prize. And that was the one thing that Messi was criticized for forever, and what he failed to do 4 times previously to this last year and a half, that he would get to finals, lose them, or lose miserably, like in the Copa America in Argentina that ended disastrously for Argentina, and Messi didn't perform. And that's what the people in Argentina and all the journalists, that's what they criticized, was he's, ungodly for Barcelona. He comes here and he's just another guy. He isn't performing for us. He isn't making us better and winning the trophies that matter to us. So I don't know the case in Portugal. I don't know what the standards are in Portugal. I'm sure the Portuguese also, wanted Cristiano to win a World Cup for Portugal, their first ever. They got the Euro, and that is an important trophy. And after Ronaldo won that one, what the argument was against Messi was, hey, Ronaldo's winning international trophies for their country. You made it to finals and have lost. But the past year and a half, that has slowly been, that argument has ended. Argentina's had probably one of the best year and a half streaks of, I don't know, maybe forever, because winning 3 major trophies in a year and a half and topping it off like they did with the World Cup in Qatar is, it's enormous. I can't even explain how big that means to Argentina.
It's crazy that their only loss in the past 50 or so games was to Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
With the competition that they face in South America, that Saudi Arabia would be the team that beat them in the past 50 games or so. They've had a hell of a run. And it showed. I mean, that started, like you said, about a year and a half ago, and that form held true through the tournament, which I think that's why I lean their direction, was because of how well they've been playing over the past year and a half since the Copa America. And so,
yep. So I think their last loss was July of 2019, and they went on a 35 game win streak before falling to Saudi Arabia. So yeah,
he's clearly put a significant gap between himself and Cristiano. But salute to Messi, salute to this tournament as a whole. We all kind of had question marks about it, rightfully so. But with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 blowouts, every match was exciting. Even if you didn't think the quality of play was the best, it was never dull.
Entertainment value was through the roof, for sure.
Entertainment value was through the roof, dramatics, late goals. So salute to the 2022 tournament. Now we get ready. Just look forward to this one. We're going to have to kind of examine, because there's 48 team turn. Is it 48 teams?
48 teams. I think it's still, I haven't seen a confirmation, but they originally were going to be, I think, 16 or 18 groups with 3 in it. But I'm seeing that they might have altered that in already to keep the 4 team groups and shrink the number of groups. So we'll have to look to see if all that has been officially changed or whatnot. But the format is for sure going to change the way this whole thing is played, with so many teams qualifying now. I get the idea, but the thing is, the thing that made this group stage so great was the drama, and every game mattered and everything was so close. We're not going to see that when the 23rd ranked European team is playing against Argentina or Brazil or somebody like that, because we're going to have, or the 7th ranked CONCACAF team like Honduras or something like that is going to make it and playing against. So the group stage might be watered down a little bit. I think that's inevitable with going to this size, but hopefully that doesn't mean the round of 32 and the other knockout rounds won't bring the drama. I think they're going to be hoping that the knockout rounds are going to be the watch. So it should be real interesting. I'm very excited still, even with the change, but the fact that it's going to be here and there's 2 locations very within driving distance for me. We are 100% going to at least one match, whether it's the US playing that match or it's just a random matchup.
Just be there.
We're going just to be there. It's
just
happening.
to be there would be tremendous. So let's get into now, fellas. So now club football returns. And I think we talk about the ever-evolving storyline. Now you have when the Champions League comes back. So now you have this PSG, I don't even call it a situation. Messi now really playing well. Last year, it was some struggle in PSG last year. Didn't have a great year. But obviously coming off the World Cup, a great tournament. Mbappe, we talked about how he played. So I guess Joe and Diego, I want to talk to you about this. Obviously, we get to see what everyone's health is like. Is PSG now the favorite to win the Champions League coming off of this? Or if it's not PSG, who is it?
Yeah, I think with having the 3-headed monster, they're always going to be in the conversation. But PSG hasn't really done a whole lot in Champions League, right?
True.
How many years before this did they have a loaded squad and still failed to win the Champions League? Even last season, that pressure has been on them to, finally win. They're spending all this money, and come on, it's still Real Madrid, and that's performing. It's still Liverpool. Chelsea won recently as well. So yeah, they have a lot of pressure. You have, 2 of the best in the world. You have Neymar, who's still playing at top level. I know the ankle injury in the World Cup, may take some time to get back to 100%, but they have that pressure. They're loaded with talent. But best players don't always come together to make the best teams. And it's been proven time and time again. Now with Messi, I don't know. You're going to see a different Messi. Messi has no worries. You're going to see a free, free of all pressure. He just dropped that book bag, that weighed, 2,000 pounds off his back. He dropped it. It's done. It's over. He's going to be a different guy. He's going to play freely. He's got nothing to worry about now, nothing to prove anybody. So just whatever goals he sets for himself from here on till he decides to leave the game.
Joe, I want to talk. We talk about narratives and stories. And Diego mentioned a name that I just thought about. How does this affect him? And that's Neymar. Because now Mbappe won a World Cup and had 2018, Mbappe wins the World Cup, had a great tournament this year. Messi wins the World Cup and is now playing so much better than he played. Neymar almost becomes, if possible, the forgotten man.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the one that now has to, if you have to prove something, it's him. And, Neymar's had the unfortunate circumstances where he always is hurt. He always seems to get hurt right around the time of the Champions League quarterfinal and magically when his sister's birthday is. Whole nother.
Like clockwork. It's like
Yeah.
Kyrie always getting needing
Birthday.
a mental health week right around birthdays and
His
family
ankle
things.
gets really sore around his sister's birthday.
Yep,
So
exactly.
he's the guy now who now gets the scrutiny because now it's like, but look at them.
Mm-hmm.
What are
They're
you
getting all
gonna
the shine. They're getting all the shine, and we know that those three all have egos, and Neymar and I think Mbappe a little bit more than Messi care about who is seen as the engine and the best player and things of that nature. That though that's already been an issue for them. We've seen that reported multiple times. Whether you think the reporting is true or not, it remains to be seen. But when there's that many different reports coming that guys are not always getting along and guys care about who is making decisions and who has the most power within what, there's something there. So that's the big thing with PSG is can the three of them figure it out, and how far can the three of them take it? Because they were there last year and they went out early, and this year they have another very difficult round of 16 draw going up against Bayern Munich in the round of 16 on February 14th. They're the first, them and Milan and Tottenham are the first two games with when the Champions League resumes in a month and a half or so. And that's going to be a really fascinating matchup to watch, because by that time, everybody who's been participating in the World Cup should have had time to get a break, because the guys who play deep are going to need a couple of weeks to recuperate before they jump right back into first team action with their clubs. So by that time, guys will have gotten a break, and there'll be a little bit of time to get a rhythm going, and hopefully get a rhythm going in the league play. So that should be a very, very interesting first round of 16 matchup. I'm very excited to watch that one.
I don't think any of the Argentinian guys are getting much rest. We'll put it that way.
I saw, what was it? Well, it might have been Dybala said that in the past 3 days they maybe gotten 5 or 6 hours of sleep. So they're running on, we're running on fumes right now. But
yeah, I think
the time to do that though.
Whenever the Argentinian players go back to their clubs, whenever the next match is, whether it's Boxing Day or whether it's December 28th, don't put me on don't even put me on the bench.
No, they're all going to come in. They're going to come in overweight.
Yeah.
They're going to come in tired.
Yeah,
it won't be good adaptation.
Give us a couple of weeks.
Now, speaking of back Argentinian, I think then we get to the transfer window. And the two names that you hear the most right now, Jude Bellingham, who plays for Borussia Dortmund, and again, one of the Diego's guys, Enzo Fernandez, now become the two hottest names in January. Usually, you don't get many major league signings like that in January. Usually that's the summer thing. However, with this World Cup being now, if you're a team, like we strike while the iron's hot. Do you all think one, both? Do you think either one moves in January? Or is there another guy you think, hey, coming off of a great World Cup, he might go sooner than later?
I think of those two, it'd be more likely that Enzo would move in January. He does have a fairly high release clause. I believe it's in the $100 to $120 million range, and Benfica have already said that they want at least that, and they're not going to budge. Jude, I think, is on the move for sure come the summertime, but with Dortmund still being alive in the Champions League, I don't think he would want to put them in a awkward spot by asking to move this early. I think the guy that had a great tournament, that's young, that is in a position of need for multiple teams, is the guy we mentioned that took over for Cristiano Ronaldo, and Gonzalo Ramos. I think is in high demand with multiple clubs needing striker, particularly one on the other side of Manchester that have already said that they're in need of a striker. And
Desperate.
desperate at this point, because Garnacho is great, but I'm not sure he's ready to lead the line quite yet as the man. But he's got all the talent in the world for sure. I just think he needs a little bit more seasoning at the club level before he's ready to take the mantle. So I would say if someone who had a great World Cup was to move, Ramos seems like one that might demand a lot of attention and some big bucks, because there's some teams that definitely need striker help.
Yeah, I would agree with Joe on Enzo Fernandez. I think Benfica is, take his clause. And you mentioned it's a solid amount of money, and for him personally, he's at a really great moment right now, coming off the World Cup, winning the Young Player of the Tournament award. Now's your time. Now's your time to make that move to a European powerhouse. And then another transfer talk, and Joe, you can kind of help me, because it's referring to Alexis McAllister from Brighton, from possibly making a move too. And he had a fantastic World Cup, came in and really helped Argentina in that midfield. He had a fantastic final, was just everywhere. And then who knows? I don't know if Dibu Martinez is going to make any move. I know he's with Aston Villa right now. I don't know if there is. I saw something briefly for a possible move for Emiliano Martinez, but I don't know yet.
I saw that Bayern was looking for a replacement keeper since Manuel Neuer got hurt on holiday, and Martinez would make a very logical selection in my mind, because Aston Villa is likely not challenging for any kind of European spots in the Premier League. And if you're Villa, his value is at an all-time high right now, so it might be a good idea to cash in, even though he's meant a lot to that club and been fantastic there as a guy who went out on loan so many times and finally got his shot when he was a little bit older. I think for him personally, moving to a bigger club, and then for the club, for Villa's point of view, you're not going to get more money for him than you would right now. So that kind of move would make a lot of sense, I think.
And honestly, for Bayern, they're looking to replace Manuel Neuer. I mean, this World Cup has really brought to light a plethora of goalkeepers. I mean, this World Cup, Bono from Morocco, Bono, the Croatian goalie, who had had fantastic World Cup, Martinez, those guys came to light and really showed up. At least those were the ones that I think stood out the most. Even the Japanese goalie, Honda, had a great group stage, and that I still can't get over that Germany game. He got peppered, and he just showed up time and time again, making big saves. So yeah, Bayern has a lot there to choose from if they're looking.
Shows the value of having a top-notch goalkeeper back there, and when you don't have one, it's very obvious, because for a long time Argentina, I feel like, was lacking in that department and was kind of an Achilles heel for them for a little while. And we saw that with Portugal. Zach and I talked so many times in the group stage for Portugal how Diogo Costa was looking very shaky, and then eventually it caught up to them in the game against Morocco, where he came for a ball and wasn't there in time, and kind of gifted Morocco their one and only goal of that game. So the value of a top-notch keeper is immense, super important. And you look at Brazil, who's sitting there with Alisson and somebody who's his equal sitting on the bench behind him, and just having a gluttony of talent at one position.
There's So, we talk about the transfer window. So I am, as an Arsenal fan, we've really, and we are in the same position, I think, as United, in that we don't have a striker right now. Gabriel Jesus is probably out at least until March with the injury that he suffered in the World Cup. And we're in a title chase. And I'm going to say it again. And I'm not being funny. There's no sarcasm or jokes in this. I really want us to consider bringing back Giroud.
I had a feeling that you were going to say that.
Because, and the reason
Good choice.
The reason I'm saying Giroud is we're not Man City. We're not at Man City's level yet, where it's like, okay, we know we'll be back here at this point next year. For Arsenal, the window to be in a title hunt is right now. As a short-term stopgap for the rest of the season, I would take Giroud for the rest of the season.
I don't think you could find a better option because you obviously don't need to sign a younger striker for 5-6 years. You already got a bunch of young guys. You need somebody who can come in, fit in, and is going to score some goals. And he clearly showed during the World Cup, and his form with Milan has been good. So that would make a whole lot of sense for a 6-month to a year contract kind of deal.
And you look at Man City with all the firepower, like Julian Alvarez is the second striker for Man City.
Alvarez. You can't talk about Alvarez. He is top. He had a World Cup it's a dream World Cup. That's what he had. He had a dream World Cup.
He had a great World Cup. He's a great young talent. And he plays behind Haaland. We have Eddie and Nketiah. Like, nah, that's not going to do it.
Not the same.
If we're going to be in a title race with Man City, we have to be able to score goals. And one of the things that Arsenal has not consistently done, even in this great run, is they have goal droughts. And you have a goal drought with Man City, you will be in trouble quickly. So whether it's a Giroud is the obvious name because he's familiar with Arsenal, but we've got to find a striker sooner than later. Joe, as a City fan, what are you like in January? What are you looking for?
We're pretty well set on this side over here, to be completely honest with you. I don't think they need to go buying anybody right now. They filled needs in the summer window, and previously we would always have issues at center back, knock on wood. We got 5 of them right now, and they're all healthy, and all of them had great World Cups and played wonderful football. So I think right now on the City side, it's laying the groundwork to the summertime and starting putting the bugs in the ears of the Jude Bellinghams, of the Enzo Fernandezes, to plan for the eventual departure of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and Kevin De Bruyne. They're not likely going anywhere anytime soon. The most likely situation is Gundo leaves and we'll need somebody to that midfield. Bernardo definitely was trying to leave in the summertime, but Barca didn't have the money, and that was really the only place he was willing to go, and they just couldn't afford him, obviously, because they had spent all their funny money elsewhere. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't be looking to go someplace else. So I think you try to keep those guys as much as you can, obviously, but what City does so well is that they plan out well in advance, and they always have names ready to go to replace the guys who are starting to get either older or might want to leave, like Raheem wanted to leave, and Zinny and Gabby all wanted to make way. to get more playing time, and we already had names lined up ready to go. So I think City's window is more laying the groundwork for what's to come in the summertime, because we have quite a lot of depth as is now. So
let me say this right now. We talked about Enzo Fernandez and where he may end up. I saw a couple, you can only believe the rumors as far as you want to, right? But I saw Enzo Fernandez linked to Barcelona. Let me say this. Barcelona should not be able to afford anybody. Like, come on, if Barcelona spend 90, 100, whatever it is, and get Enzo Fernandez, I'm investigating it myself. I'm doing a full investigation because there's too many funny style things happening with Barcelona's money if they end up with Enzo Fernandez.
And
they're just willing to pay the fine for the infraction on financial fair play. I don't know what that fine looks like, but man, they got to be pushing close.
And they still owe several clubs a lot of money from transfers that happened before they spent $200 million this summer. So they still haven't fulfilled their obligations to other clubs. It's mind-boggling that there's the way it's being allowed to be done. It's just makes.
I don't know how they're pulling it out, but
mortgaging their future for immediate success, and
they ought to. Barcelona is like somebody who has a suspended driver's license and they just keep running the red light.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We just keep running the red light.
I don't know how all the rules work, but them selling their debt, their television rights for the next, I think, 10 years to different markets, I don't know how that offsets with the financial fair play and their debt with their assets. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I'm thinking it does, or else they probably wouldn't have forked over 10 years of image rights. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, the levers that they activated were enough to clear some of their debt to get them under a certain threshold where they were allowed to spend this year in this window per the La Liga rules. So it's just what they did was, we're going to go all out and spend all this money right now and bring in all these players that we think are going to help us get farther in the Champions League, which is going to bring in more money. And then we can use that prize money to start clearing more of our debts. And they're playing on Thursdays again. So
one more name before we get out of here. I just thought about it for transfer. And this is a guy who was considered one of those guys. He's next. He's going to be the next big star. And apparently they will offer you could have him on loan. And even though the asking price is not much, and that's João Felix. Atletico Madrid, who apparently he and Simeone don't get along. And
he's ready to go right now.
He's sick of him. They're sick of him.
The transfer that never made sense when it happened is finally, hopefully, coming to an end. Because when the style that Joao plays with never fit with how Atletico likes to play. So I'm happy for him that he's hopefully going to get a move out of there, because that just didn't make sense from the get-go to me.
Yeah, and it sounds like Simeone doesn't really have him in his future plans either. So he's really sitting and waiting for Atletico to find him a new home.
Yeah, the club, before we jump out of here, that I would like everyone to pay attention to this January is Juve, because they have some serious financial issues and a whole club turnover in the hierarchy. So their players,
everybody quit.
There's definitely some drama going on behind the scenes that's going to be coming to the light. So they are in dire financial straits, just like Barcelona was and currently is. So if you're looking for players, Juve, I believe, is going to be in full sell mode. So guys like Weston McKennie on the U.S. side, Dusan Vlahovic just got there. But if you're looking for a striker, that might not be a bad option. And a lot of the other guys could be on their way out because of the turmoil. They might be getting a hefty fine. And I saw that they might get points taken away from their standings and putting them in the relegation zone. So it's going to be some real interesting stuff going on in Italy with Juve. So keep an eye on them come January and how many players they let leave to try to generate some funds.
And there you have it. So this is our last show of 2022. We want to thank you all for your support. Shout out to everybody in the Stoppage Time Football Club Facebook group. We'll be back in the new year, definitely around the transfer window to see what happens with some of these transfers. Club football returns. We're excited. Sky Blue Joe. Shout out to our man Zach. World Cup champion Diego. This is Stoppage Time Football Club. Salud. Signing out.